See, the thing about edibles, one of the problems with it being illegal is that a lot of us don't have a lot of information that we could use. Like, there's a difference between smoking it and eating it. When you smoke it, you get THC, but when you eat it, it's processed by your liver, and it produces something called 11-hydroxymetabolite. That's 5 times more psychoactive than THC, and it lets you talk to dolphins.
My first purchase was a weed cookie. I got an edible. And it was the coolest thing I'd ever gotten up to that point in my life. Because I'd never seen branding on drugs. It had a logo. Underneath it, it said, per dose, eat 1/3 of a cookie. Who eats 1/3 of a cookie? I eat all the thirds of a cookie. You're not going to have me eat 1/3 of a cookie. Now I'm high and I'm hungry and I'm staring at 2/3 of a cookie? And I ate the whole cookie. Woke up 2 days later, about 1.5 miles from my house, feeling refreshed. I'm gonna get out of this ditch and get on with my day.
I just like to, smoke a joint every now and then.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
You dick!
Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of VoteProPot-Cast. And today, we're going to discuss the tasty topic of cannabis edibles. We're going to discuss exactly what it is we're talking about when we refer to edibles, because that covers a range of things. Andrew's going to help us understand the different kinds of edibles. We're going to talk about what goes into making them in a very basic way. Medical edibles, some of the issues regarding regulation or the lack thereof. And we're going to offer, as usual, our news and events regarding the world of cannabis. I'm Phil Adams.
I'm Jay Britton.
And I'm Andrew McCready.
And to get things started, Andrew, why don't you start us out and just give us a little overview of what exactly we're talking about when we refer to cannabis edibles.
A cannabis edible is basically any type of food product that is infused with cannabis. In addition to eating an edible, you can also ingest either tincture or oils that are designed to take orally. So there's sort of a difference there. But let's just concentrate.
What is a tincture?
A tincture is a cannabis that's infused with alcohol.
Okay.
Now the THC, the compounds in cannabis, THC, will stick to an alcohol molecule or a fat molecule, i.e. like butter.
Okay.
Or oil. Now those will be absorbed by the body. If you just took a bud and ate it, you would not get high.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember the old days in high school, just taking weed and crunching it up, putting it in brownie mix, and then kind of wondering, why am I don't really...
Well, I'm not getting... Yeah, you've wasted the brownies and you've wasted the weed.
Well, the thing if you want to make a baked good, what you'd need to do is take butter and chop up some weed, put it in the butter, and let it simmer for a while. Google the recipe to give you the exact temperatures and times for the amounts that you're using. And that what happens then all the compounds dissolve into the butter. You strain out the fiber and let it cool, and you have canna butter.
And it's a lovely green.
And it can be a lovely shade of green. And then you just add that to your brownie recipe as if you were just making your regular brownies.
I'm throw this in, I'll ask you guys. Personally, I don't have a lot of experience with edibles. I mean, other than a few things friends have made, but I mean, I don't live in Colorado or any place to get the stuff. So I really don't know a lot I don't have a lot of experience. What about you guys? Have you tried it?
Yes. What's most common the most common was the brownie. And now it's like it has spread all over the map. There's all kinds of chocolates and candies. There's snacks. You can get cereals now. You can get ice cream.
Right. Gummy candies.
Right.
I remember doing brownies back in the day, but of course I don't partake anymore, so I have no experience with this new generation of edibles. So
me either. One thing I do remember though, Andrew, is it tastes like shit.
Well, that's one of the big issues. Now the terpenes, the
That's a
terpene-
problem with food, you know.
The terpenes in cannabis is what gives it its flavor and aroma. That's why if anyone who's been around many different strains of cannabis can tell you that the aroma can vary greatly. There's some, a small amount of cured marijuana could really stink up someone's house or
Imagine.
car easily.
Yeah.
But then there's other strains that you
Get you
probably won't
busted.
even notice. Right. So
Yeah.
I think one of the things they're doing in the edible industry is that they're finding the best strains to use for edibles and the best type of way to extract the compounds and get it into the edible.
Well, I did some reading and preparing for this episode, and I learned a lot. I mean, the terpenes and the chlorophyll are what give it that flavor,
Right.
that earthy, grassy flavor. I mean, so how do you get rid of that, or can you?
Well, there's a few ways to do it. One way is to basically just use strains that
Okay, aren't as earthy.
that aren't as earthy, and don't have that level of terpenes. And the other thing is to make something that will hide the flavor. I mean, you don't want a mild flavoring snack. You want something that's really powerful, like you had.
Well, I heard that
like
most, like chocolate and peanut butter are the two best kind of
Right.
disguisers of that flavor. So
Yeah.
I guess that's why you see chocolate brownies and
Well, see that's another thing. When you make, for example, like a peanut butter cup, you put
Yeah.
the cannabis in the peanut butter filling, which kind of masks it because peanut butter is a pretty strong flavor. But then the chocolate is just regular chocolate. So when you taste the chocolate part of it, it tastes really normal. See,
Okay.
it also so it's good to infuse not the entire thing, but some layer of it. Like it would be the icing on something or the filling in something.
I think it should be known that we should have said this up front. Andrew has a culinary degree and he's a pastry chef, right? So he knows a little something about making sweets.
About making all kinds of food.
Making all kinds of food, but his sweets are
Not
delish.
sweet and savory. I'm professionally trained.
That sounds kind of kinky, but
Well,
leave that one alone.
That's the way we call it in the biz.
Sweet and savory.
Well, last Christmas, Ainer and I were at a Christmas party, and we had some Reese's peanut butter cups made by a friend, and they were infused. I guess I can say that.
Were they delicious?
They were awesome.
Okay.
They tasted great, really. I mean, I wouldn't have even known until I started watching the Flintstones and eating popcorn.
There are a lot of folks, and when I think about it, if I were to engage in cannabis consumption once again, I think at the very least I would start with an edible.
Well, that's not a good idea.
And-
yeah, but there's a lot of street. You got to be careful.
So you're saying that's not a
No,
good
it's
idea?
not.
No,
No, it's not.
no, I don't know that it's a bad idea if you do it correctly. But I tell you, it's a
Correct.
completely different kind of high, man. It's so slow coming on that you think you're not. You eat something, and you go, man, I'm fine, I'm good. I'm try some more of this, And we've all heard the stories about the guy that buys the 100 milligram cookie that they tell you to eat a quarter of. And you eat a quarter of it and you go, man, I don't feel anything. So next thing you know, you eat the whole cookie. And then it's like, holy shit. And you're stoned for like 15 hours, right?
Or our guy from the clip, Chris Cope, which I think is a very funny stand-up comic, Chris Cope. He just ate the whole damn thing because it was a cookie. He eats the entire cookie. And or you eat an entire brownie or I like chocolate. I'll eat the entire chocolate bar. Bad idea.
Well, that gets to the whole regulation thing. And a lot of the states that do have legal, like medical, some of them don't have edibles for that very reason, because you got to regulate it, because thing, it's a cookie and kids are going to want to get into it.
This is okay. Let's go over what happened in Colorado. So they started with the edibles, and it turns out kids were getting into them. So they said, okay, we need child-proof containers. Pets were getting into them, so we need better packaging. And then also people were going, then we're talking about experienced cannabis users going, man, I ate a cookie, man, and it was just way too much for me. Right. So what they need, what they're trying to do is to get some kind of standard calibration, like an alcohol. It's 80 proof. It's 40% alcohol, or it's 8% alcohol. I can drink 3 beers,
Right.
2 cocktails, or 3 glasses of wine and get about the same level of intoxication. but they don't have
Lightweight.
that with cannabis, and they do to a degree. But let me tell you a story. There's a guy who went to Nevada and he got a espresso bean coated with dark chocolate edible, and he ate one. I think it was either 2.5 milligrams or 5 milligrams. He said went out bowling, had a blast. He tried them a few other times. Every time he tried them, it was wonderful. Had a great experience. He went back to the store another time, and they were out of that brand, so he bought a different brand.
Okay.
Same espresso bean covered with chocolate, with 2.5, 5 milligrams, whatever it was, identical. And he took it, and then he went to the David Copperfield magic show and didn't have a good time. Now he said
That's because it was David Copperfield.
No,
Well,
no,
I don't know if
he's
it's
pretty
magic.
good.
Yeah,
All right.
but the thing is that one of them could have been made with an indica and the other one with a sativa, and you're going to get different responses.
Right, I see.
You know, because we all know the indicas are going to mellow you out. It's going to help you sleep. The indica is going to help with pain and nausea, and it's not going to make you tired, but it's going to make you hungry. So we're
Right.
talking about two different responses from basically cannabis with the same potency. So that's where they're struggling now. That's why the state of Maryland, when they legalized medical, they didn't allow for edibles because the Maryland Food Control Board said, wait a minute, we don't have regulations here. We're going to set nothing. We're going to make it legal, but let's get our ducks in a row before we
Which is smart.
roll out the regulation, which is understandable. That's fine.
Yeah.
So what happened in Colorado? So they came back past these laws and said, well, these are the things that they're saying that you can't have an edible with more than so many milligrams of cannabis in it.
They have a maximum.
Right,
Yeah, I
right.
think
You can't make the 300 milligram cookies anymore. I mean,
Right.
that's not a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of people ending up in the emergency room.
So Andrew, is there any talk of something equivalent to proof in, like we have alcohol that's so many proof? You know that 151 rum is some pretty potent booze, whereas 96 proof is going to be a lot less. Is there some equivalent rating system that they've devised with edibles?
Well, they tell you how many milligrams of cannabis is in it, but you don't know the strain, and different strains have different properties, and that's the gray area, and it's like the difference between a white grape or a red grape. You're going to get different
But
results.
that only affects flavor, though. That's what's different about it.
That's where the different lies.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, a grape has X amount of sugar in it, and when you ferment that sugar, you get alcohol, and that's all the alcohol you're going to get, unless you fortify it with more sugar.
Right, but they don't do that with cannabis.
I think it's fair to say the difference is the chemistry, because with drinking you're talking about alcohol. That's it.
Right.
But with weed, you're talking about all kinds of different compounds. It's THC and CBD and CBB
And different ratios.
In different ratios.
And different ratios.
And thus
Everybody
different
that-
effects.
So what they did in Colorado, so they passed those regulations, and things did get better. They're still having problems, and what happens is they get too much, especially some of this cannabis that has really high THC levels, whereas the old pot used to sort of mellow out the anxiety portion of your brain. This new pot, which is super high in THC, actually excites the
anxiety
part and gives you, instead of mellowing you out, it gives you, it
Makes
just
you
has the
paranoid.
opposite effect. Right. Makes you paranoid.
Yeah, it makes you paranoid.
And that's what people are calling, going, I think I'm overdosing, and they're going to the emergency rooms. And
Right.
I heard one story where the guy called, 911. They said, well, what you need to do is drink some water, lay down in bed, relax, get some sleep. Now, if you come to the hospital, we're going to give you some water. We're going to tell you relax. We're going to put you in a bed, take you to sleep. But we're going to charge you like a lot of money.
Right. Do it at home for free. And rest easy in the notion that it's not going to kill you.
That's exactly right.
Rest
and that's what they're
easy.
gonna
It's never
say.
killed anybody.
Never killed anybody.
You're not going to die. You're going to
have a rough night.
but you're not going to die.
Like
You're going to have a rough night.
Like Willie Nelson said, the only way pot can kill you if a bale of it falls on you.
That's right.
That's right.
Good old Willie.
Well, the most dangerous thing about cannabis is that it's illegal.
Well, that's what we're all about, isn't it? Changing that.
So different states are approaching this differently. Now, California did something totally different. They have different types of licenses. They have a type N license that allows you to add cannabis oil or an infusion to an edible of any kind, right? Now that's Class N, and now those are easy to get. They issued like 25 or 28 of them in the statewide, and they're not that expensive. Or you could get a Type 6 or 7 license, and that allows you to actually make extractions, and infuse edible items. Now, this also allows you to make the oils and the tinctures that people use medicinally, or you take that and add it to the edibles. So what you're going to see are some of these larger labs or processing plants are going to start making the oils that chefs are going to buy and put in their extractions and put in their edibles. So you're going to start seeing consistency that way as well.
So there'll be like a whole industry just of people making essentially the can of butter. Or whatever
they make the can of butter, the oil, and then the processors buy it from them instead of making it themselves.
Andrew, how much of this do you think is dependent upon descheduling cannabis and the research?
Well, what's going to happen then? They're going to start doing medical research, and now they'll start coming out with products. They'll start coming out with pharmaceuticals that have cannabis in them. Now, those are going to have to go through all the testing and all the rigmaroles of the FDA, the federal government is requiring. Now, that's a whole different animal. But in the meantime, I think it's being treated like herbal supplements. You can go to the health food store and get a tea that claims, it's going to help you sleep, or it's going to, it's good. It's
going to help you lose weight, or
or help. Here's a great laxative. Right. Drink this and your problems will pass. See, in the edible industry, another thing that they're going to start doing, you might start seeing, which I think is a great idea, and that is you're going to start seeing cannabis kitchens opening up, and it'll be like a food truck kitchen. There's kitchens where food truck owners go and they do all their prep. They have refrigerators that have everything they need to make it. Then they load up the truck and go to work, and then the next truck comes in and does their stuff.
Wow!
So you're going to have cannabis kitchens where you're going to be able to go and make your edible products, and chances are, if you do that, you'll be all using the same type of oil. So the only difference is going to be the quality and the taste of the product. So
you would go to this and make your own using their oil?
It'll be like you'll be able to lease a kitchen. That's what I think some people are talking about doing. And as a chef, I see that making a lot of sense. Because it'd be like, and also it opens the door, like this Type N license in California, and these kinds, opens the door for small businesses, and also, for more artisans to get in there and make some really quality, high end stuff, or unique, something really unique.
Well, the biggest complaint, back to what I was saying earlier, is biggest complaint I hear from people is that there's a distinctive, flavor that is not always good. You know what I'm saying?
Not pleasant.
Yeah. It's kind of like, man.
Well, they're working on this. There's a woman in California, I hear, that has learned to extract their terpenes and use them to her benefit. Because
they call her the Julia Childs of edibles or something.
Yeah.
I read an article about.
Yeah. But
the problem is the terpenes actually are part of what provide this the psychoactive.
It adds to the psychoactive, from what I understand, but it really affects the smell, odor, and flavor.
Okay.
You just know that the more this is opened up to small business, these small businesses and food truck type things, they're going to be, hundreds and hundreds of little laboratories for coming up with great ways to flavor them and great ways to kind of label them, to know, so that, consumers are going to know what they're in for when they ingest this. And I think that's
the big deal in Colorado. The big deal, what they did in Colorado, was go after packaging and labeling. Those are when it comes to edibles, those are the two most important things.
Yeah, I saw a story on, I don't know, CBS News or something about, I think it was a Sunday morning show about they showed these candy bars, and literally these companies were mimicking real candy bars, like a Nestle's Crunch or whatever the hell, Hershey's. And so the packaging looked exactly like it, man. So it'd be a Nestle's Scrunch, but it was the exact same, like, graphics and stuff on the label.
I can't say I approve of that.
They had Captain Munch cereal.
right.
Well, yeah, well, here's what they
That's not
passed.
good.
This is some of the jurisdictions. Some states are passing laws that restrict. You can't use any cartoon character to advertise.
I mean, we're back to Joe Camel.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly what it is. But and they're saying that you can't. They're starting to crack down on mimicking, certain types of candies. I guess you can't. I mean, gummy bears. Gummy bear. That's not really. But
Well, it's like the '60s when cigarettes were aimed at teenagers,
Right.
But the whole legalization, the whole reform thing, it's a process, So it's going to take time to kind of develop these things, and just saying, okay, it's legal now. Well, California, Colorado, Oregon, these places are figuring it out, and they're slowly making changes, and that's how America works, man. You start out with, and you slowly make the changes that are required, and it'll be all right at some point. So.
We've all heard horror stories about people with edibles, but I think the reality is, like in Colorado, 40% of the cannabis sales are edibles. A lot of people are using edibles successfully, not having any problem, and a lot of people out there really like it.
That's why I think a lot of people are going to start with edibles, because there are people who just don't want to be pot smokers. They don't want to smoke.
Right. Or they don't want to smoke.
That's right. They don't want to ingest smoke into their lungs, so they're going to do it that way.
Well, the problem lies if you have never done cannabis and you try an edible right out of the gate, and you do what that reporter did, or anyone else, or many others, and ate too much, thinking, oh, nothing happened, let me eat some more. Then all of a sudden it all hits you. It's comparable to
It's all about
it's
dosing.
comparable to drinking alcohol for the first time and just drinking a whole bottle of tequila.
Yeah, I mean, there's guidelines now in Colorado, and they say if it's your first time, start with 5 milligrams or 10, between 5 and 10, and then then you know what you're getting.
And wait 3 hours before making any
wait
judgment.
3 hours, before you take it, and then the next day maybe try 15. But it's like anything else, like you said, Andrew. It's like going out and buying a 12-pack. First time you ever drinking it all in an hour, you're going to regret it. So
the reporter you're talking about, Andrew, is Maureen Dowd, and she's a very famous columnist with the New York Times.
Oh yeah,
and she wrote about her experience in departing from her usual drug of choice, which she says is Chardonnay, in order to try a sample of a cannabis product, and I think it was a chocolate bar. In Colorado. This is what she said in her article. She said, sitting in my hotel room in Denver, I nibbled off the end, and then when nothing happened, nibbled some more. For an hour, I felt nothing, but then I felt a scary shudder go through my body and brain. I barely made it from the desk to the bed, where I lay curled up in a hallucinatory state for the next 8 hours. I was thirsty, but couldn't move to get water or even turn off the lights. I was panting and paranoid, sure that when the room service waiter knocked and I didn't answer, he'd call the police and have me arrested for being unable to handle my candy.
Dude, that sucks, man. I've been there.
Poor Miss Dowd had a rough night. She learned her lesson.
But she learned her lesson.
Well, that's why they're passing laws. That's why they're restricting the number of milligrams in an edible. Now, what's happened? They're coming in saying no more than 100 grams or 100 milligrams in any one edible, and it has to be labeled by the dose, and no dose can be more than 5 or 10 milligrams, I think it is. Now, which works out fine unless those laws also cover medical, because there's some medical applications where they do need higher. I know. So each state is that's another issue that each state. That's why getting involved, going down and going, guys, you can make limits on recreational, but you can't do it on medicinal. Some legislators who really don't know a lot about, and a lot of people don't know about this industry. It's new, and people are learning. As Jay says, it's a learning curve.
Right.
So you just got to get out there and figure it out, and that's what these states are doing.
It might be helpful. I got a list here of this. I was surprised. I looked up how many states actually have legal edibles. Again, a lot of them are medical, but medical only. But still, you got to have a card. But you mind if I read off these states? I was shocked.
No,
okay.
Absolutely.
It's in alphabetical order. So it's Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan. Yeah, I know, right? Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island,
So that's like half the states.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Vermont and Washington. So shoot, man, that's a lot of states where you can go out and buy edibles. Now, the problem is not a problem, but they all have different like Andrew said, some of them you can only have this or you can only have that, some of the other states you can only do CBDs or oils, no THC. But still, I was surprised. I didn't realize that many states had legal edibles.
Yep.
I think a lot of that, some of that is political. Some of them, there were ballot initiatives. They passed it. The legislators are now sort of forced to set up regulations, and they just set up really awful regulations. And it takes them years to do it. And then when they finally, so when they finally put them out there, you have to have one foot in the grave, and there can only be only certain oils. And some people saying, like in Alabama, they're saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to pass it, but you can't smoke it." And they're going, "But and then they're having a problem. Then if you do get the oils, how are you going to get a processor that knows what they're doing in a state where it's never been big before? It's really tough. I mean, they just had to recall a bunch of oil that was used for medical purposes that the guy screwed up when he made it, and he was using liquid butane as a solvent, and he didn't get it all out. So here's your medicine has butane in it. No,
it's poisoning you.
Right. And that's why in California a bunch of cannabis products just got recalled because though it did pass some initial testing, it didn't pass the final. After I don't know exactly how it happened, but they're realizing that there's faults in the system, and we got to test this stuff. I mean, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but in the article I read about that, it was, I don't remember, I don't have it in front of me, but the percentage of failing samples was incredibly high. I'm surprisingly high. I don't remember the percentage, but when I read it, I said, wow.
It was like 20%. 1 in 5.
20%. Yeah, like 1 out of 5 failed.
And now, these edibles are being packaged under brand names. I mean, they've got, logos and everything. It's all very corporate.
Right,
names like Kiva, Baked Brothers, LOL Edibles. What are some others? Lord Jones, Canna Company, Garden Society. I mean, there's a bunch of already, standout edible manufacturers, and I guess they're all in all the stores.
And just to surmise, if you're going to try a cannabis edible, start with a very low dose and wait 3 hours before you take any more, if any at all. Maybe wait to the next day to increase the dosage until you find your sweet spot.
All right, guys, it's time for this week's installment of Cannabis News. Phil, you go first. What do you got?
This is from USA Today, last July 24th, 2018. Pot smokers are setting aside their joints in favor of edibles, pills, and extracts. So, and this is Dateline Denver, and it's talking about how many cannabis users all over the country are, putting aside the smoking. They were giving up on not that they're giving up on cannabis at all, and quite the contrary, but they are finding that they are that they're increasingly switching from smokable cannabis to edible cannabis. This is a quote from Jared DeCamp, co-owner of the Herbal Remedies marijuana store in Salem, Oregon. He says, the actual old school smoking of cannabis is pretty much out the door. That's wow. That's quite a statement. Now, I don't know how true that is. If Andrew, as you say, 40% are switching to of cannabis sales or edibles, that means 60% are not.
Right, but that doesn't include extracts. I don't think.
Okay. So it's.
Let me tell you a story. Last time I was in Colorado. I was at an expo, and I was going through these seminars, and I'd met a chef who had given an expo, and so we started talking afterwards, and all of a sudden he looked at his watch and went, "Oh God, it's 4:20. Want to go out for a smoke break?" I went, "Sure."
Sure. Of course.
So we went outside, and it was funny. Cops were walking by. Hey guys, how's it going? Anyway, and it's funny. This guy was carrying a box with like a 3/4 of a pound of pot in it. He was like, "Oh, it's a half pound, 3/4. Don't know." Anyway, so people were smoking, and they were like, someone had a pipe or an extract or something, I said, well, I'll just roll a joint. And the guys looked at me like, you old guys, man, you love your joints, don't you?
You and your joints.
And they go, man, and they look like, we don't smoke joints anymore.
That's funny, man.
It was all
true, too.
dads.
You know, our age, and I don't know if we want to say how old we are, but we're old.
We're old.
We're old, yeah. It's a different culture.
We're
man.
boomers.
Yeah, we're boomers. We're
Definitely.
We're approaching 60, baby. I'll be 60 my next birthday.
Me
I know
too.
I don't look it or sound it, but
Anyway.
Well, you're very immature, so
That's
you've
what
got
it
that
is,
going
yeah.
for you.
I got that going for me. Yeah. It's a hybrid.
This is out of the Oregonian, which is obviously a newspaper and a website.
From Oregon?
Oh, yeah, you're right, Phil. I didn't know.
Oh, see?
This is by Noel Crombie, and it's a story about the massive overproduction in Oregon, which has been a big problem. It's resulted in a lot of even more black market than they had probably before it was legal, because they're producing vastly more quantities of cannabis than they can sell legally. So the producers, I mean, they're not going to throw it away. So they're selling it to the states where it's not legal. In this newspaper article, they comment on a report that came out by an agency that the state police is pushing. Because of this, among other things, there's been a 50% drop in the price of weed out in Oregon since 2016. 50%.
Yeah, it's flooding the market.
Yeah, man. And so anyway, the producers, and especially in a couple of counties, and I don't know anything about the area, but so they've got all this extra weed. It says here, between July 2017 and March 2018, law enforcement seized nearly $1.7 million in proceeds coming into Portland International Airport from the illegal cannabis trade. Police also seized another $861,000 in marijuana moving through the airport during that period. So that's just what they, what they seized, what they found.
It's the gray market.
Anyway, so that has
Right.
a lot to do with
The gray market,
the
right.
state not doing a great job on regulating who can grow, sell weed, right? So they got anybody and their brother can get a permit to grow it, and now they got so many people growing it they can't get rid of it. So, which is great if you're a consumer, because you can go out and buy weed for nothing in Oregon compared to other places in the country. But it's not good for the state.
Well, that happened a couple years ago in California. They had this bumper crop, and the price just plummeted. And but the next season, the market leveled out.
Yeah, and I think that's what'll happen is the growers will. But I mean, think about it. If you're a farmer or you're a grower and you're growing cannabis, you're going to grow it, man, and you got to sell it.
So
you're not going to throw it.
So
away.
do you think eventually the government is going to pay them not to grow it?
Yeah, you think? Kind of like corn and
Weed subsidies.
yeah. Okay, Andrew, you got a story?
I got another one. It's about an 80-year-old grandmother in Michigan. Her name is Dolores Saltzman. She apparently her great granddaughter had lost her phone, and a police officer was returning it to to the woman's house, and the police officer got it and smelled marijuana. And she asked Dolores, who's 80 years old, if she knew anything about that, and Dolores said, "Yes, I have arthritis, diverticulosis, and muscle and bone aches. And cannabis, it saved my life, and that's why."
You go, girl.
And she goes, "Well, do you have a medical card?" So he showed the medical card, and the medical card had expired.
Oh, man.
So the police officer helped the lady finish doing her dishes, and then handcuffed her and took her to jail overnight.
What a prick! I'm
Right.
sorry.
I don't care about the dishes. I can do my own damn dishes.
So she came. Well,
What a prick.
apparently, it wasn't like the scene where she tackled her and handcuffed her, or anything,
Tased her.
But
Well, he's
an
trying to be
expired
nice
card.
about it, I guess. He's got a job to do.
She
So.
was a female officer.
Oh, she. Okay.
Anyway, so she arrested her, confiscated a couple joints and like less than a quarter ounce of pot, and she had 7 pipes. Apparently, one for every day of the week. She was collecting. They took her pipe collection.
So she's 80 years old?
Yeah.
I want to party with this woman.
I'm sure the commissioner just said, they said, listen, just go get your card renewed and everything's fine. Everything will be fine.
Right.
But they interviewed her, and she had this wonderful speech going, guys, we got to get out, and we got our fight. She actually said, we got to fight for our rights. She just didn't say to party. And
Dude, we got to get her on the show.
She's like a beastie grandmother. And
That's
but
right.
her son, and she was like really cool. She goes, everyone's really nice to me and everything, but this is ridiculous. She goes, I sat in a jail cell overnight in pain because my arthritis was killing me, and she was stressed out and cold. And I mean, what's
happening now?
Well, they dropped all charges because she just went and got her card renewed.
Good.
Good.
It's a little mini reefer sadness there.
Well, yeah, make up for last week, the one that wasn't sad at all. Well, it was sad.
No, it was actually kind of uplifting.
Right. Well, actually, it was. I mean, the boy in Ireland who came to the United States to get his medicine. The sad part was if he could not have gone back to the UK and gotten it legally. I mean, it would have been sad. But there, our brothers and sisters in the UK stood up and made a bunch of noise, and they said, "Okay, give this kid a card, give it to him." And the UK has a few labs out there that are growing some great medical grade cannabis and extracting it to oil. So they got their shit together.
Are we going to let them get ahead of us in this business? I don't think so.
Not happening.
We can't fall behind the Brits.
No, we did that once.
Pretty soon the Russians are going to get involved in the business, and then where we be? Next thing you know, they'll be firing at us from the moon, and
Well, apparently, I think it was in Lebanon, where now they're coming across going, okay, we're gonna legalize it, but apparently, and the Lebanese hash, guys who've been growing and making hash for centuries. I mean, it is like a huge tradition in the culture of parts of that country, and they're coming up going, whoa, wait a minute. You can't legalize it.
Are you crazy?
What are you doing about business, man?
It's going to totally screw up the industry, which is something that which is a perfect example of ways we can approach it in the United States. There are people that are in the black market. Now, they're not all drug cartel guys. Some of them are, a lot of the weed sold in the United States are just, some guy just making ends meet, and he's not getting rich,
Right. He's got 6 or 8 plants in his house.
Right. Or he just gets it from some other guy and he gets a quarter pound. He splits it with the same, 10 guys he's grown up with since elementary school. Right. And it's to them, he's doing them a favor,
Yeah, and he's getting a quarter for free.
Right.
For doing
Right. No one's making any money. So that's a problem. So what do you do? I mean, is there a way to sort of, I'm not saying give pardons to everybody who broke the law, but is there a way that maybe we can get, the black or gray market legitimized?
Right. Well, that's another great topic for another show is all these guys who sitting in jail who did nothing but, sell some weed. I mean, they never killed anybody, never hurt anybody.
Yeah, that'll be a hard show to do, but we have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am sure somewhere in a legal grow operation in the United States, there's some extraordinarily gifted growers who have incredible expertise who have done jail time.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
They got out of jail and got hired immediately and moved to Colorado and just got, dude, do your thing. We're going to pay you through the friggin' nose.
Well, check back with us and we will be doing an episode on that aspect of cannabis. And we really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And we hope that you've learned some things about cannabis edibles. And we want to get your feedback and any ideas that you might have, any stories, recipes, anything that you think would add to the conversation. Jay, how should they get in touch with us?
Send us an email at VoteProPot@gmail.com.
Or if you'd like to listen to other episodes, check us out at VoteProPot.com.
Please like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/VoteProPot.
Wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. But here I am in New York City, hiding out in Central Park, getting kidnapped by the police today sometime before dark. smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. The judge looked down upon me, frowned. He said, kid, get on your way. Just don't start out your morning with espresso and a J. I said, I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. Hitched on out to Portland, caught a ride up to BC, took the bus over to the neighborhood to have a bowl with my coffee. Now I'm up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. Smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day.